Who listens to FM radio anymore? Not me. No. Hey friends, it's John with BleepinJeep, and what I'm going to attempt today is to do kind of a stealth install of this CB antenna on my XJ. I'm not even 100% sure if this is going to work, but my idea is to put this antenna in the spot of this one, securely mounted, kind of mimicking the factory look here. I know it's not going to look exactly factory because clearly anybody that knows can tell this is a CB antenna and this is an FM radio antenna, but regardless, I don't want it to look at first glance like I got some big truck, radio antenna sticking off the side of it. So I don't listen to FM radio anymore. Get rid of that. And I'm going to pull the fender and then go ahead and pop this antenna in there using the bracket that I got in this kit. And hopefully what I'm picturing is it can kind of bolt onto the side here. I'm hoping to not have to do a whole lot of fabrication. This can be something fairly easy to do, and I haven't seen it done before, though I can't imagine it hasn't been done, but hopefully I can make it something nice and easy that you can follow and do if you would like. But before we get into it, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to our channel if you're not already, and if you can support us on Patreon, we appreciate that a whole lot. It helps us keep doing what we do. Now, removing the fender, the first things you're going to want to remove are going to be the fender flare, mainly because it ties into this plastic, and you're going to want to also remove the bolts that hold the bumper cap in there. I've already removed those. I've got a few bolts left holding this on. You have to take the header panel off too to get to these inner screws. It's a pain, but there's the fender off. This is a simple unplug. Fender's totally disconnected, and I can figure out how to get this off. Alright, so this came out just as I expected. Vice grips on this piece. It just threads out of that, and then that's how that goes together. By the way, there's obviously a special tool for this. It's 3 little grooves in that. There would be a special socket, I'm sure, for taking that off. I don't have one, so vice grips it is. Definitely want to use this, and I may end up just doing some double-sided tape on here. I think that's probably my best bet. Double-sided tape this onto the fender, which it kind of was from the factory. And that'll be my grommet around the antenna. So this part's definitely going to be to each their own kind of situation, whether you want to keep this radio antenna out or not, or clip it, or whatever you want to do. I think for me, I'm just going to push it through here. Well, I'm going to pull this plug out. Yep, see there's a metal crimp on there to keep the cord, the radio cable from sliding in and out. I'll show you what I did here after struggling with this for a while, going at it the wrong way. One of my first thoughts was to put the double cable through it and try to pull it through that way, and I thought, nah, that's going to be too much. It'll be too thick at the end where it needs to go through, and that's not going to work. But here I am at this point here, And I do believe this is just gonna pop the rest of the way through here. Through the rest of the way, and we're in. This kind of comes in right above the fuse box inside, so I decided to just kind of gently tape that together. Yeah. Right. So this is the exterior end of the cable, which went to the actual antenna. This is the part that goes to the radio, and this just comes unplugged. And then you can save this if you ever change your mind and want to route back to a regular radio antenna. And then the other end of that you can tuck away. Alright, I've got all my cable pulled through on the inside, all this coax for the into the radio. I haven't decided where I'm putting the radio yet, but more than enough cable there. And I got the boot back in the hole, nice and snug. Got maybe 24 inches of cable here, and of course don't want to do anything till I have my fender back in place. But here's my thought, is that this will just kind of bolt into the inner fender there and come up through. It'll be just above the height of the roof, and it's a 2-foot antenna. So I will see how that works out on the height. And the fender back where it belongs, I'm just marking this on the inner fender. Awesome, so it's exactly in the middle of this like strongest divot in the whole side here. That's down in here. This protrudes out, this protrudes way out. I was picturing this, been a while since I had a fender off of an XJ, so I was picturing this exactly how it is and hoping that the antenna was not on this area or in this void anywhere in there. So plenty of good flat surface there to mount to. And let's put the antenna back through with the base on it, put the fender on, and then I'll get a really good idea of where this needs to be. Well, unfortunately, what I feared here is true. The bracket holds the antenna too far away from the inner fender structure there. So there would be room to completely re-drill this closer. The other option would be to mount the drill hole for the antenna on this side, and then I could drill more mounting holes on this surface and mount it that way. So I'm using these little neodymium stitch weld magnets for holding body panels together while you weld them. These two are just supporting it from sliding down. These two are acting sort of like bolts to hold that on. Yes, this is aluminum, so these are just pulling through the aluminum to the steel. Now I can put the fender back on and come straight down through the center of that antenna hole and make a mark and see where it's going to end up on this bracket. There you can see my mark. Good news is that's plenty of room to drill a new hole and not affect the existing hole. The bad news is it puts it really close to the inside of this. Definitely puts it too close to this part of the bracket for me to be able to put the antenna mount and the coax on it. Probably just drill on this side. And like I was saying before, then I'll end up putting 4 new holes through this guy to mount it into the inner fender. Okay, here's my final bracket. And this normally would have been the top where the antenna went through, and then that would bolt onto something or clamp around the mirror of a semi-truck. I have flipped this so that this is now the top where the antenna goes through. Ignore these two holes, those were there. Center 1/2 inch hole is what matters here. And then I've drilled 4 holes in this, and I'm going to use some beefy self-tapping screws to bite into the Jeep body and mount this guy good and tight. Center probe of this connector on the CB antenna where the coax, the pin from the coax goes in, that needs to be isolated from the bracket, which is the ground. And so I just need to double check continuity on that to make sure. See, no continuity to the ground. Now if I touch the top part here, we get continuity. And that's exactly where we should get continuity. Should not have it anywhere on the aluminum bracket. So, got to double check that before we go. That's tightened down, so that's what my final bracket with the antenna mount looks like. That's looking to line up exactly where I need it. So I'm again just holding it in there with the magnets. But let's see if I can get the light on here and you can see down in there. So that's looking straight down into the hole that I drilled, and you can see the magnet. I'm using a magnet in the center of the thing there, so that's what you're seeing as the obstacle through that hole. There's only so far that this can go down on that. It kind of bottoms out on the nut from the actual coax mount thing there. So I've got that where I want it. I'm just going to reach up inside with Sharpie in hand. Find the outline of that bracket and draw that on. It's looking like that's a little bit higher than I was expecting, which is okay. Didn't end up needing any washers in there. Kind of pulled it in just to the right spot. And I think having that little bit of cantilever on it will help to ensure that none of them come loose. Make sure we don't forget to connect coax. Fenders all bolted back up. Antenna back in here. Okay, antenna is snug by finger tight. And it does not rattle around. That sitting nice and flush, no tape on it yet. Get some tape on there. And just as I had hoped, there is room to get wrench on there as needed. Got a low bridge of vines here. Gonna see how my rigid mounted CB antenna likes this. I don't know. It's low enough. Oh, golden. There you have it. That's the Stealth CB radio install. It works great. I've used it a couple times now on the trail, on the highway. Doesn't make any bad whistling sounds or vibrations. It's nice and sturdy, and seems to keep things, kind of pushes things out of the way on the trail. And reception is fine. I'm not looking to talk with people 2 states over. I'm just kind of communicating with my buddies on the trail. So it works. And I like the look of it. Haven't gotten any compliments on it yet, which is perfect because it's stealth. Nobody notices it, so nobody talks about it. That's what I'm going for. That's a big time bar. Thanks for watching. Over and out.